Hello and welcome to Mindful Living, where we explore the art of living with the intention, balance, and inner peace. I am Avik, your host, guiding you through conversations on health, meditation, mental well being, mindfulness, and the mind body connection. Each episode features expert insights to help you grow, heal, and thrive. So, take a deep breath, relax, and join us on this journey to a more mindful and fulfilling life. So, let's get started.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to another interesting episode of The Mindful Living. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are exploring the insights and strategies that help entrepreneurs and leaders achieve lasting success. And we have an incredible guest who is revolutionizing the way high achievers approach work life balance and leadership. Dr. Victoria Mensch. Welcome to the show, Dr. Victoria.
Thank you very much, Sana. Very happy to be here.
So, listeners, before we proceed on to the discussion for today, I would like to share a little bit about my guest with you. Dr. Victoria Mensch is a seasoned executive, academic, and expert in the art of work life harmony. And she's here today to share her wisdom with all of us. With over 25 years of experience in both academia and executive leadership, Dr. Victoria is passionate about empowering leaders to move from burnout to balance and showing us how we can transform stress into success. So, Victoria, welcome again to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Sana.
So, your background spans academia and executive leadership in some fast paced environments like tech. Can you tell us how your personal journey inspired you to focus on helping others escape burnout and achieve work life harmony?
I'm happy to. As you mentioned, I spent most of my career in Silicon Valley in high-tech industry. I worked in large corporations, global corporations. I worked in startups. I worked in a boutique consulting companies. I founded my own consulting company as well. And I started, however, in academia. Out of high school, I really wanted to be a psychologist. So I went and got a degree in psychology, a master's degree and PhD in psychology. And then I started counseling and very quickly realized that, I made a mistake. So I followed my passion, but I made a mistake. I followed the wrong path. This is not what I signed up for. So I pivoted in my career. I went to corporate world. And then, lo and behold, a few months later, or 2 months to a year later, I found myself in the same situation, burned out, unmotivated, very skeptical. It's like, I made another mistake. So now I know that it was actually burnout. So not necessarily that it wasn't a passion. I made a mistake. So I went through several cycles of those before I realized that this is a burnout, and I need skills to really prevent burnout and create the resilience in myself. It's not really about the job. It's not really about the passion. It's about how I react to those external circumstances. So I gained that experience, and I want to share that experience with others. I encourage leaders to gain those skills and be role models for their teams. So that's where I am at the point.
Super interesting, Victoria. So there's work-life balance, which is, of course, everyone talks about it. Everyone is aware about that. What exactly is the difference between work-life harmony and work-life balance?
Yes, I'm so happy that you brought this up. I really prefer to say harmony instead of a balance. And I think that the word harmony allows for much more flexibility. So when I think of balance, I kind of picture this scales, right? On the left-hand side, there's life, on the right-hand side, there's work. So, and if if you increase one, then you decrease another somehow, right? So it's very kind of, there's a dichotomy in that, which I think is not realistic. So harmony is provides a much more flexibility, and it's not just work, and it's not just life. We are multidimensional, multifaceted, multi-passionate human beings. There's the whole person. So, in our sense of well-being, our sense of flourishing is really comprised of all different components. It's not just work, it's not just financial stability, but we want to have purpose. We want to have meaningful relationships. We want to have all this in harmony. And there are different seasons of life, and there are different, cycles in your life where sometimes add a little bit more on the financial stability, effort in the financial stability, and sometimes you decrease that, and you do the relationship. But the harmony is in that you actually, you're empowered to that. It's your choice and it's your decision.
That's interesting. Thank you for clarifying that, Victoria. And you often talk about the concept of productive happiness. Can you explain what this means and how high achievers can shift from stress to success?
It's very similar. So when people find me in the burnout, they're usually kind of on the brink, really to the point of desperation. The burnout can be really deep, and you're to the point like, I cannot take one more day of that. I certainly went through several cycles of those. So when I became a psychologist and started counseling people, I was like, I cannot do one more session. Or when I worked in semiconductor companies, like I cannot do one more day talking about semiconductors and microprocessors. And you think for sure it's a job, right? Or for sure it's that person next to me. So we're putting that blame on something external outside of us. For sure it's a system, right? So we're in this political system, or we're in this, societal system, or it could be a manager, where with this bad manager, what have you. So we'll put it all out there. And we think that if we change that, overnight, if I quit my job overnight, I will become happy. And a lot of people make those impulsive decisions. They're really coming out of despair. More often than not, what happens is that a few months later, maybe you switch jobs, maybe you switch locations, maybe you switch the career, but you find yourself in the same situation, burnout again, because you changed the external circumstances, but you took yourself with you. So the concept of productive happiness is that, well, let's look at that, right? So let's learn those skills and then make a decision from a better place. Right? So you don't need to change your entire life overnight, right? So you really want to make that decision from a more aware space, of a more conscious space, and then more often than not, job is really not a problem. So once you construct your life in from that harmony perspective, you actually remember why you decided to do this job in the first place. You really liked it. There's just everything else around it. When you could not disconnect, when you live in the survival mode instead of the thriving mode, that's what actually contributed in that state of burnout, not necessarily job itself. So that's the productive piece of that, right? So we can get to happiness through productive means, right? So we can make those changes, but when we do it from an aware and conscious place and out of the skills and practices that help you to make those decisions, then you actually can make those changes much more productively.
That's eye-opening, Victoria. And burnout is a hot topic these days, especially among because according to you, what are some of the early signs of burnout that we should be aware of, and how can we proactively prevent them?
So at the end of the day, what burnout is, it's a chronic stress reaction. So we're all familiar with stress. And now when the stress accumulates day over day, week over week, months over month, that's when you start calling this a burnout. So one of the red threads is really exhaustion, right? So you're tired, you're motivated, you're overwhelmed, exhausted, and it doesn't really matter how much breaks you take, how much sleep you get, that sense of exhaustion is still there. but there are also kind of very personalized, other symptoms that people can experience. And it really depends on how you experience stress. So if you know how you experience stress, for example, if you're stressed, you're not eating, right? So then those changes in behavior that you lost appetite or you start eating, craving, I don't know, sweet and fatty things, right? It's a comfort food. So those changes could be a sign of burnout. It could be other changes in behavior, like lack of sleep, or you sleep too much. So what's your stress response? That stress response will amplify, and you want to watch out for that burnout. Psychologically, though, it's lack of motivation, it's overwhelm, and it's exhaustion that people mostly experience.
Great. And you have worked in both large tech companies, enterprises, and startups as well. How do the leadership styles differ in these settings when it comes to avoiding burnout and fostering innovation and collaboration?
So all this, and whether you're in large corporation, whether you in startup, whether you're an entrepreneur and a founder of your own business, or if you don't work, outside of the office. So this really, again, at the end of the day, it's a stress reaction. One of the stories that I really like to tell, so it was very insightful for me. I worked on a very important project, and I handled, my family. I had two small kids, and I worked on a very important project in a large corporation. So we were launching like $1 billion product. So I was so overwhelmed and so exhausted. And I remember I was going to pick up my son from was like a carpeting lesson. He was 3 years at the time, right? And there was this really interesting carpenter who was teaching kids this skills, 3, 4, 5-year-old skills. And I was looking at him. I was like, well, and I was kind of driving, I was thinking, I wish I had a job like that. So it's a lifestyle job, right? So like teaching kids, and you're a carpenter, and you're kind of following your passion and all this. So, and I stopped by to pick up my child, and I started chatting with the instructor, and I said, well, how are you doing? And all of a sudden he's like, I am so stressed. It's so overwhelming. There's just too much going on. That's when I realized that it's really your personal reaction, right? So this is how you react to the disruptions outside of you. And some of us are more resilient to stress. Some of us are less resilient to stress. But personally, from your personal point of view, these are all valid emotions. So at the end of the day, the disruptions that are coming at you, and the challenges that are coming at you, and the styles in the corporation or in a small company are different. But your reaction to stress is more likely, more or less likely to be the same. So in a large corporate environment, I think leaders might have more tools on the institutional level, kind of to provide to their teams. Entrepreneurs, they wear many more hats, so it's almost more kind of a bigger responsibility to keep yourself resilient, to learn the skills, and you have this attitude. Because from the leadership perspective, so once you implement these changes, your team is going to mirror them. So it's not only you who will be in harmony, but your team is going to mimic that, to mirror that. So you will be actually surrounded by people who value the same things, and go through the productivity cycles the same way. Does that make sense, Anna?
Absolutely does. It does. And can you also highlight what are some of the most effective strategies leaders can implement to create a workplace culture that prioritizes wellness without sacrificing performance? That's like a double-edged sword, but how they can do that?
Yeah, so I think the best strategy is to be a role model. So Yeah, so really to be a role model in that, and there are evidences of that. So I had people come to me and say, "Oh, if you build a career like this, and you kind of maintain that harmony, and you have life outside of this, then I'm inspired to build a career as well." Because a lot of times we see, people who succeed, they're really deeply unhappy. They devoted, more than 100% of their time to work, and they burn out, right? So then it's like, oh, I don't want to be that, right? So I don't want to put, that goal for myself. But if you see a leader who actually is able to combine that, then being a role model is very important. So we owe it to us, to ourselves, to be those energized and, and happy, those, again, respectful to our complete whole self. And our team is going to mirror that. But realistically, one of the things that we talk about a lot is, as leaders, we tend to control things. So especially, in the corporate environment, is that, but like in the founders and in entrepreneurial settings, it's even more visible. So I got where I got. Not because I relied on other people, right? It's because I relied on myself, on my skills, on my talents, on my time. So I got there, by those means. But once you really cannot achieve success at some point on your own. So you want to learn how to ask for help and how to receive help and how to relinquish that unnecessary control, right? So once you reach a certain level of responsibilities and leadership, to go to the next level, you have to learn how to relinquish the unnecessary control, right? So what things you want to control, where is that value that you contribute, that you want to contribute, and you like to contribute, and what is it that you can actually have other people to help you do. That's one thing. Another one is allowing other people to reach their goals by their own means. Of course, I can do it better. I know how to do it better. Nobody can do it better than me. So that's a very typical mindset of leaders, especially beginning leaders, right? So only I can do it this way, but it's really not that. So having that flexibility, relinquishing that control, letting your team, choose the methods, how to achieve the goal, and at some point, set their own goals. That what is going to help you scale your own team and your own business. But that's what also releases so much energy that you can redirect somewhere else instead of putting inside and burning you out.
True. That's absolutely true. Great. And you advocate for blending success with fulfillment. How can entrepreneurs and executives begin to integrate more balance into their lives without feeling that they are losing momentum in their business?
I think it's very important to have the mindset shift that you are not your job, right? So it's of course, we identify, especially in our business, right? So if it's your own business, then you identify with your business. It's important to understand that we're not our jobs. We have all other sides of us. We're, as I said, multidimensional, multifaceted, multi-passionate human beings. So from a sense of well-being and fulfillment and flourishing, when you feel alive, when you feel passionate, right? So when you feel vitality, so all those different parts are important for that sense of flourishing. Where we really go wrong is we 100% identify ourselves with our jobs. So understanding that and realizing that there are other parts of me that contribute into the well-being, I think that's the most important step. Then from that step, again, you actually start asking honest questions. Why am I doing what am I doing? Why am I setting this goal? Why is it important to buy this car? Why is it important to achieve this goal? And you ask a series of questions of why until you come to the authentic response. So once you have that authentic response, some of the goals become irrelevant. That, oh, this was not my goal. This is something that, I picked up somewhere along the way from other people, from society, from teachers, from parents, but it was never my goal. So that's the way, right? So to really reach out to that authenticity and align with that authentic sense of why.
Superb, superb. And finally, before we wrap up, for listeners who might be managing teams, Victoria, what steps can they take to ensure that their employees also experience work life harmony, even in high pressure roles?
Yes. Again, practicing, right? So giving the skills and teaching the skills of resilience and burnout prevention. I think that's important. So certainly leaders can provide the programs or access to the programs for their employees. Their own leadership style is important. More of again, innovative leader, more of a mentor when you allow for that flexibility and innovation and proactiveness from your employees. That's important. And keeping in mind that, yes, they are your employees, but it's not only who they are. And I think that's actually very important in the age of artificial intelligence. A lot of routine tasks are going to be outsourced and done by artificial intelligence. So to manage people in that AI world, so you really need to understand that their value and their contribution is going to lie in their creativity and their uniqueness and their individuality. And you want to foster that and understand that and master that skill to actually work with your employees as their people and not just, parts of a machine that perform certain tasks.
Superb, superb. And what's one piece of advice you would give to high level leaders who are struggling to find harmony in both their personal and professional lives?
Mm-hmm. One piece of advice is be a role model. Be a role model. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission. Allow for that harmony. Learn the skills. Set the goal of harmony because that's long term is your way to that satisfaction, to well-being, and be a role model. And the circumstances around you and the team around you, people around you are going to change to support that.
Great. That was really, really a great discussion, Victoria. And if our listeners want to connect with you, explore the resources, your wonderful coaching, how can they access that?
The best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn, Victoria Mensch. You can look it up. There's the contact information. You can connect, book a call. I'm happy to chat about anything that's burnout related, that's innovation leadership related, everything Silicon Valley. So really look forward to connecting.
Superb, superb. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners to refer to. And Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your insights and the genius strategies with us today and your approach to turning burnout into harmony and cultivating innovative leadership is truly inspiring for all of us.
Thank you very much, Sana.
And for our listeners who want to learn more about Victoria's work or get in touch with her, be sure to check out the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of The Mindful Living. Remember, success doesn't have to come at the cost of your well-being. With the right mindset and strategies, you can achieve both. Until next time, this is your host Sana signing off. Thank you.